right, so we're gonna get into the next presenter. How amazing is that? A lot of amazing information today, huh? The presentations are pretty epic. I must say
Oh
that
my God, Neil.
it's been pretty
Beyond
cool.
epic,
Yeah,
so ascension oriented, so fascinating, every aspect that
yeah.
I just can't wait to even the panel later. So thank you.
Yes, yes.
You are the
Phil,
best.
thank you. Phil, you always put a smile on my face, brother. But because you're wearing, what is that? Two hats and a third eye
This is
activating
this,
thing?
this is to show you that I wear many hats, you see.
That is hilarious, man.
Thank you.
Well, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm gonna read your bio so everybody can know a little bit about you before we hand it over to you.
Sure.
So, everybody, I would like to introduce you to Phil Gruber. He is a renowned holistic facilitator, is a licensed acupuncturist, registered lymphologist, and is well versed in a wide range of traditional and alternative healing modalities. His passion, enthusiasm, kind spirit, wit, yes, I can contest to that.
Sparkling with sparkling.
Exactly, sparkling wit and intelligence. Yes, that's true. Has made Philip much respected in demand speaker on international scene. He is highly regarded in the fields of system analysis, decision strategy, trend analysis, and futurism. He has been called as magical genius with a heart of pure gold. He teaches a wide variety of workshops and seminars and is acknowledged expert in such diverse fields as sacred geometry, light language, advanced healing systems, and the master key. He was featured in the documentaries The Indigo Evolution and Metaphysica 2012. His beautiful CD collaboration with Lara G, The Song of Indra, deserves its iconic status in the field of New Age music. Philip has authored many articles and, along with Johnny Mahario, introduced the Harmonic Concordance of 2003 and the Grand Quintils of 2004 to the world. His holistic approach includes combining a vast range of holistic therapies, including lymphacising, Kathar healing, and sacred harp healing. And I should have read your bio before because there's all these words that I've never said before. So, well, here is Philip Gruber, everybody. And just from my
Yeah,
own
you did
heart,
good.
been working with Phil, met him 2 years ago at a Portal to Ascension conference, worked together maybe on 5 to 6 events since then. We have a workshop coming up with Phil too in a couple of months, and just a pure soul, and speaks on any topic that we really want to delve into in regards to consciousness, from extraterrestrials to walk-ins to the ascension process. He has a wide range of information here, so I truly appreciate the fact that he exists, but definitely because he makes me laugh. So everybody, Phil Gruber.
Oh, hi.
Hey,
So it's where's Alan? Where's Alan today?
I've been texting him. He was supposed to be back on, but he's not. I'm gonna get him on while you're speaking, though. He'll be on here soon.
Okay, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you again, with Neil, all these wonderful MCs. Trisha, following Trisha. I don't know if I'm up to it. I just absolutely love this woman. She's just, again, another fountain of knowledge. She's beautiful. She took me for a haircut. I don't know how many years ago, 2004, 2005. I presented her lovely home. She is just absolutely amazing. Aren't we just the most interesting, oh, Eric, first time seeing him? Cool. All right. This is dedicating this to you, Eric. Okay. And well, see, I'm already off track. Let me give you a quote here. In the adornment of the spiritual marriage, Jan von Rysbroek, quote, knowledge of ourselves teaches us whence we come, where we are, and whither we are going, that we come from God and we are in exile. Just like the Shekinah or the Shekinah, the presence of God that's been in a state of exile for God knows, for God knows how long. The Shekinah, the presence of God, and you got to remember, this is like 6 o'clock in the morning for me. Again, Neil, the presence of God, once again, not denied, but embraced again when we bring the divine feminine back to her rightful place in the spiritual hierarchy. Then the presence of God will once again return in her dazzling white radiance. And instead of being the one that holds matter in bondage, she will be the angel of liberation and liberate us. She's the sleeping beauty. We have all this beauty sleeping within us. And remember, all the ways they tried to awake sleeping beauty, nothing worked except a kiss. that kiss from the Prince of Peace. And you know, our word kiss originally comes from the Gaelic Scottish caith, which means to appear without disguise. Now, I don't know if Mary Magdalene and Jesus kissed on the mouth. Well, of course they kissed on the mouth. Of course they soul kissed. But you know, the word kiss is not in that gospel. She used to kiss Jesus. Jesus used to kiss her often and it's blank. But the fact is, the word kiss, to appear without disguise, it's all about being genuine. It's all about being authentic. It's all about being your true self. And when you share that sacred kiss, what it really, really means is you share the Spirit's breath, that the same Spirit's breath or breath of Spirit moves within you. So whether or not they soul kissed or not, that's not as important as the fact that they shared the same Spirit. And actually, they probably shared the same soul or oversoul. We can talk about that later. You know, for the people that know me, I talk a lot about contact with higher intelligence. We talk about a lot of history going back hundreds of billions of years. We talk about the Earth-human race lines. We talk about star seeds, earth seeds, the DNA substrand matrices, because it's important to understand, just like John von Reisberg said, knowledge of ourselves teaches us whence we come, where we are, and where we're going. Aren't these the biggest questions we ask ourselves? Who are we, right? Who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we here? Did we choose to be here at this particular time? Well, for sure we did. Just to be brief, and I know this isn't the thrust of this talk, because I want to talk about healing a lot. And of course, this knowledge is very healing. This knowledge is revelatory. This is the knowledge of ourselves, that the original design itself is of extraterrestrial origin or angelic in nature. And it's not so much that we're looking for or in contact with non-human intelligence. We're actually more than not in contact with intelligence that's more fully human than we are. That model for us what it really means to be human, to be fully human. The original human design itself is of extraterrestrial origin. And that humans really originally inhabited what's called the second density, a planet in the second harmonic universe. This is dimensions 4, 5, and 6, but pretty much grounded in the fifth dimension. Pleiades. You see, there are three-dimensional systems when we talk about the Pleiades. We talk about Sirius, Arcturus, Andromeda, Orion. They exist in a three-dimensional context, but there are higher aspects of them, just like there are higher aspects of ourselves. And at the core of all stars and the core of all planets are stargates, interdimensional stargates. And this is why the Earth is so prized, because the Earth has access to many multidimensional systems. I'd love to talk about this. There's a lot we can talk about, but what I really want to talk about is knowledge and the value of knowledge, the knowledge of ourselves. In that humans, the original human race, I call them the Turanusium race. This was a race that was conceived, created. This is my paradigm, which is shared by many people, and I've spent a lot of my life researching experience I had when I was young. I've had wonderful teachers. I had a walk-in experience when I was 6 years old. Where's that picture of me? Look at this. Look at this. This is after my walk-in experience. Look at that face. Look at that face. You look at pictures of me before, and there's not this face is different. I was hit by a car when I was 6 years old. They estimate that car was going about 60 miles an hour. Roberta Eich's father hit me. I came out. I just coming from the dentist, actually. Went out the driver's side, smacked me head on. I was thrown up into the air, maybe 50, 60 feet up into the air. I landed in not a scratch. That's a typical kind of walk-in experience. If you really need to be here, then there will be direct intervention. Angels, higher beings, they don't really prefer to interact directly. They try to interact with us consciously. And to the extent that we can interact and share consciousness with our higher selves with singular identities that are all connected within what I call a 15-dimensional time matrix, has everything to do with the DNA. And that's very, very important to understand, that in the time fields of Earth, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions, we call that the second harmonic universe. In my paradigm, the time matrix that we exist within is a 15-dimensional matrix, 15 dimensions that are grouped into 5 harmonic universes. Each of these universes composed of 3-dimensional bands. And you can add, and we can go to really basic questions here. We're going to get to the forgiveness and gratitude, I promise you. And I do want to leave time for questions and answers, because that's always very, very interesting. Although at the end of my lectures, it's usually like this. No, come on, ask me some questions. That this 15-dimensional time matrix, you see, when we talk about dimensions, and Trish talked a lot about dimensions, what is a dimension? It's time we get really the brass tacks. A dimension is a frequency band. What is a frequency band? It's a bandwidth of frequency, but what is that frequency? It's how frequently something happens. When we talk about the void, when we talk about the word, we talk about sound, a unit of sound, we call them particae. We talk about how God expresses itself from the void. We're going to talk a lot about the master key also. This is very important. In the form of these, of sound. Sound always precedes light. You have a unit of sound, which is omnipolar, which holds all the polarities of what could be expressed as electricity and magnetism, matter, antimatter, particle, antiparticle. You have this unit of sound, and then it expresses itself as light, bipolar light, electrical and magnetic light. This is what they haven't begun to understand yet, or to really understand, is that light is bipolar. Light is both electrical and magnetic, or has the effects of electricity and magnetism. This is why it presents itself as wave or particle, wave and particle simultaneously. So you have these small micro particles, all units of consciousness. Everything is conscious. Everything is alive, awake, and aware, certainly within the dimensional bands within which its consciousness is stationed. But a lot of this consciousness exists in an unformed state. The old law of attraction authors, William Walker Atkinson, Charles Haanel, all men and women alike, and they were all, to a person, members of secret societies, either Masons, Rosicrucians, mystery schools. A lot of the information that Trish talks about, they still exist here. But this is a mystery school now that's available for everybody. It used to be just relegated to certain elite classes or priestly classes, or if you had enough gelt, if you get my drift. But this information should be available for everyone. It was meant, this is who we are. The original human design is of extraterrestrial nature. Humans originally inhabited the second density, time fields of Earth, where Earth is called Tara. Many of us call this planet Tara. It's the 5th-dimensional version of Earth. And the original human is called Turanusium. Pleiadian Syrian Council saw that there was a lot of corruption within our time matrix. Why corruption? Because there were hybridization experiments, and it's very important to understand that it's always been about hybridization, always been about hybridization. Even now, ET contact with humans here is all about hybridization. We can get into that a little bit later too, although it's not the focus of this talk. Certainly in the question and answer period, you're really welcome to ask anything you want. But the Taran Turanusium, the Pleiadians and Syrians saw that there was a lot of corruption within our time matrix. Why this corrupted consciousness? Because of hybridization experiments that did not honor the law of one, which is more about cooperation, right, between races, respecting that all consciousness is intrinsically divine. You know, and the fact is that we will come into our true mastership when we realize that we need to have respect and reverence for all that is, all aspects of God. You know, we're all in this together. But a lot of these races, they hybridize without a regard for cooperation and the true law of one, doing things the quote unquote in a good way, in the right way. And races that decided to just inbreed. Now you can imagine what happens when you inbreed here a few generations. Imagine millions and millions of years of inbreeding. It's like, blah, 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 you know, and you can have very high dimensional races, but their minds, their agendas are draconian, and even more than draconian, insectoid. I've been watching a lot of nature shows on insect societies. You see where this is going. A lot of these races, they're winged avian draconian races. I know the names of a lot of them. I've done research for years with my personal experience and the personal experience of great teachers that I've had over the years. But the Pleiadian Syrian councils, now this goes back about 560 million years ago. Science physicists now are seeing the background radiation from maybe the last Big Bang, although I don't think it's such a big bang, more of a slow bang. But this last 950 billion year cycle, it goes back till there's just no language to understand these questions, to even, the fact that we can even conceive these questions is an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. But they decided to create a race, a very special race, the original human race, the Turanusian race. They took DNA from 12 or 24 primary interstellar races. They combined them to form the original human. The original human race is angelic. The original race is immortal. Our stellar genetic heritage can be found in our DNA. You know, a lot of people are having memories now. They say, I'm a Pleiadian, I'm an Andromedan. Well, that's because that's all relative to DNA activation, all about DNA activation. Have you ever noticed that a lot of the light language channelers now are channeling very, very similarly? It sounds the same, it feels the same. It's a little bit a Native American kind of sounding, or First Nation sounding, a little bit of Asian, a little Japanese, a little Chinese. Well, the light language that's being channeled now, that's always been being channeled, is the languages that are closest to us genetically. Pleiadian languages, Syrian languages, and there are some light language channelers out there that are doing it so purely. And the reason it seems so familiar, it's because they're closest to us genetically. One day in a future seminar, I'll show you the map of what's called the Interplanetary Interstellar Templar. This is the series of interdimensional stargates. Very important to understand, what are stargates? Stargates are structures of energy that work to connect dimensions, to connect harmonic universes. Sure, you can do it the scenic way. You can take, if you're in the mood for a nice sort of stroll among the stars, you can go to sublight speed and have a nice trip. But basically, consciousness gets from place to place, projecting its consciousness through sets of stargates, interstellar stargates, which are black and white holes. We know about the black hole. It's a magnetic vortex. You go in the black hole, but out the white hole. At the end of every every end of a black hole, of course, is a white hole. That's how you get out of the black hole. You go in the black hole, out the white hole, to the next dimension or to the next universe. And just like our chakras are sets of what we call meiotic and diotic points, they allow for the passage of energy. The gates that we have, the gates of light in Kabbalah, it's called the gates of light. These are all vortexes. All vortexes are formed by the intersection of what we call flashline sequences, but scalar waves, sets of scalar waves. And that sound, now here, if you can get your mind around this, this is where it is. You have ultra micro particles way below the quantum level. You have a unit of sound that's omnipolar, that holds both polarities, or the potential to express itself magnetically or electrically, but then it emerges as two units of light, electrical, magnetic light. But guess what? They cycle back into sound. This is how it works, from sound to light, sound, light, sound, light, sound, light. Now there's a pulsation rate. The frequency, what is a frequency? It's how frequently something is happening. The transition from sound into light, omnipolar sound, bipolar light, folding back into sound. How many oscillations per unit time? How many times did it flash onto light, back into sound, sound, light, sound, light? How many times? Frequency is a measure of the oscillations, the number of oscillations in a given unit of time. So higher frequency, faster oscillation, higher dimension, and actually future time. What is not really totally understood is that what happens in the higher dimensions happens in our future. The angels are our future. Our higher selves are future selves. When we go to sleep at night and our consciousness disengages from its normal three-dimensional focus, it goes into some of the lower mid-astrals. It goes into future time. The trick is what you can bring back. And if your DNA isn't activated enough, or if you have distortions or some codes running in reverse, you're not going to be able to remember that information. It's one of the functions of sleep and dream, is to be able to go into the future and merge, at least temporarily, in the sleep and the dream state with our higher selves, with our future selves, with the selves that are more humane, that have more of our humanity, original humanity, because they have more DNA activated. It's important to understand, but I wanted to just get this thing really fast, although we're not talking about it tonight, although I guess we are now, about what the dimensions are. And each dimension is a specific particle pulsation rhythm. And it's important to understand that everything is conscious, that in Earth human lineage, we're known as the Adumi or Adam Kadmon. There were 7 root races and 5 cloister races that were seeded after the original fall. There were 7 root races. Rudolf Steiner has a lot of this information pretty intact. 7 root races, 5 cloister races were seeded at different times in Earth's history. The Earth was seeded with races that carried certain genetic potential. The root race evolutionary cycle, we're in the latter days now of the Aryan root race cycle. Yes, a race of masters, but not the quote unquote master race. We're going into the 6th and 7th root race cycles now, the Melchizedeks, the Paradisians, the B'nai Or, the B'nai Elohim, sons and daughters of God. The root race evolutionary cycle developed one of the first 5 strands of DNA within the 12-strand DNA template, and the cloister races carried the 7th through the 12th DNA strand template, and they correspond to the higher dimensional density systems. Root race incarnates are called the earth seeds, and the cloister race incarnates are called the star seeds. The cloister races, the indigos, can be called. The indigos have a lot of different names. We've been researching the indigos for a very, very long time. Waves have been coming for hundreds of years. The most recent waves, as Trish alluded to, and many other teachers, came through the 70s. Psychics, clairvoyants began to see that indigo aura, especially around children. Why children? Because of their life force. The colors were much more visible. There's a lot of colors working in our auras, even colors that we can't even conceive of yet. But to see that violet color, you see that indigo, that blue indigo violet, that's because most indigos come in with aspects of the 6th strand fully activated or partially activated. The 6th strand, like all the strands, are coded to process or programmed to process one dimension of frequency, one wavelength, one bandwidth, one frequency band. So when the 5th and 6th strand start to activate, you're going to get higher dimensional perception, higher sense perception. The Pleiadian memories, the Syrian memories will come back. 5th DNA strand relates to Pleiades, Pleiadians. 6th, Syrians. 7th, Arcturians. 8th, Orions. 9, Andromeda. 10, 11, and 12 we call the cradle of Lyra or Lyra. Remember? Rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle of Lyra will rock. When the bough or seal breaks, the cradle will fall and down will come baby, cradle and all. Well, we may have fallen to the bottom of the tree for whatever reason or reasons, but we still carry the cradle of Lyra within us, that 12-strand DNA imprint. And this is why a lot of the light language channelers now, they're beginning to bring very, very clear original human Turanusian, Pleiadian, Syrian languages, because their fifth and sixth strands are starting to activate. This is why when someone says, I'm a Pleiadian, I'm a Syrian, I'm Andromedan, that's because those strands are starting to activate. We are all these things. We have identities in all the dimensions, in all the universes, from the first harmonic universe, dimensions 1, 2, and 3 here, we as incarnates, the second harmonic universe, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, the angelics, the soul matrices, dimensions 7, 8, and 9, the oversoul or archangelic matrices, dimensions 10, 11, and 12, the Christ dimensions, Christ, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, avatars, and even higher than that, dimensions 13 to 14 and 15, the fifth harmonic universe, what we call the rishis. And Trish, I hope you're still listening, because I remember Trish has had contact with the Brennau races. This, in our paradigms, these are 13, 14, and 15th dimensional races. These are pure light beings, pure wave form consciousness. And here's the secret. Let's say you have this 15-dimensional time matrix, 5 harmonic universes, each composed of 3 dimensions each. So we have the first harmonic universe, that's us incarnates. Second harmonic universe, another 3-dimensional universe, that's the souls or angels. Third harmonic universe, archangels, oversouls. Fourth harmonic universe, avatars, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Christed beings. Fifth harmonic universe, the rishis. When they are perceived here on the earth plane through our perception here, they can be perceived as very, very tall beings with very long, expanded, extended heads. And they are pure light beings, pure waveform consciousness. But here's the thing, if you get this part, you get a lot. Each of the rishis, they sort of divide within themselves like these Matryoshka dolls, right? Each rishi projects 12 parts of itself into the next lower harmonic universe as avatars, Christed beings. Those 12 avatars or Christ, they're part of a larger family, extended family of consciousness called a rishi, okay? But each of those avatars, in turn, project 12 aspects of themselves into the lower harmonic universe as archangels or souls. So those 12 archangels are part of a larger collective called an avatar. That avatar and 11 other avatars are part of a larger collective called the rishi. The archangel or the oversoul projects 12 aspects of itself into the second harmonic universe as angels or souls. And each of those angels sends or projects 12 aspects, decide to subdivide within itself, and they come into the first harmonic universe as us. I think a lot of the time we confuse past lives with parallel lives. That angelic being, that soul matrix projects 12. And why 12? It has to do with the geometrical nature of time and space. Always pentagonal dodecahedral symmetry. Don't get me on that one. I mean, if I go into sacred geometry, that's going to be the whole hour. But has to do with the geometrical matrix of time and space. That soul or angelic projects, or those 12 aspects project themselves into our 3-dimensional universe as incarnates. So you see, we have an incarnational family of 12 that are in different positions, different time-space coordinates. They don't necessarily have to be our past lives. They are singular identities that exist in space and time. And there are periods of dimensional blend through. We're going through stuff like that now. So it could be that we're not here as a result of summation of our past lives, but with the memory we're getting is from these singular identities that exist within this time matrix. They have their own lives. We may indeed have past lives. It's very possible, but it's important to understand that those past lives look at us as higher selves, just as we look at the angelics as higher selves. The angels look to their higher selves, and those are the archangels. I think in the next webinar we do, Neil, we're really going to get into this, the structure of time, the structure of consciousness. But the root race incarnates are called the earth seeds. The cloister race incarnates are the star seeds. And it is the cloister races, the indigos, whatever you want to call us, psychic children, super psychic children, mythic, magic, mystical children, B'nai Or, B'nai Elohim, children of the blue star Kachina, all the same thing, although there are different levels of indigos, and that has to do with the level of DNA activation or the potential for DNA activation they have. The what we call the silicate matrix, the 12-strand pattern. Remember, the Pleiadians, Sirians, when they put us together 500 million years ago, they took DNA specifically from specific interstellar races. They combined them to form the original Terneusium. We have detailed maps and charts of genetic hybridization. Silicate, we're going, see, we're carbon-based now, again, because of frequency. We are moving into more silicate biology. Silica is the next octave from carbon. You see, part of the ascension process is all about acceleration. Yes, it's all about creating the Merkaba vehicle. We can get into that too. But we're going from carbon-based biology to part carbon, part silica, and then pure etheric silica, and then liquid light, hydroplasm. The 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions, the Christos dimensions, are dimensions, the biologies of the true biologies of the Christed beings are liquid light, hydroplasm. Okay, in the Bible, they're called, these dimensions, 10, 11, and 12, are called the rivers of I'll remember this in a second. There are oceans of liquid silica, liquid crystal. And the Bible, they are called the same thing. They are called the rivers or seas of crystal. And the oceans that we supposedly evolved from, yes, there were terrestrial oceans we evolved from, but we also evolved from these seas of liquid light, the Christed dimensions. This is why a lot of us see 11:11 on the clock. A lot of us we've started this incarnational journey in 11th dimensional Lyra, 10th dimensional Lyra, cradle of Lyra. These are the Christed avatar dimensions. 10th dimensional Lyra is Vega, which is very, very interesting because in the movie Contact, Jodie Foster has her experience with the Vegans. And by the way, I hate to say this, but the Vegans that I know, they're not vegan. And it's okay to say to somebody that lives next door, you shouldn't eat meat. Are you going to say that to an 11th dimensional vegan that they shouldn't eat meat? Well, who knows, right? Anyway, 11th dimensional Vega is a system that used to be called Avion, A-V-E-Y-O-N. Well, guess what we know that is now? Yes, Avalon, the true Camelot, is 11th dimensional Lyra. So we decided to project ourselves out of an avatar family, Sananda, Kananda, many avatar families of consciousness. We projected our consciousness through all these interdimensional stargates, black and white holes, to be born at the moment of conception, wherever we've come from, these higher universes. We projected ourselves through these stargates, black and white holes, structures of energy that just act as doorways or portals to other dimensionalized systems. We went through the Earth's core. All planet stargates have at their cores, all planets and stars have at their core stargates. There's a huge interdimensional stargate at the core of Earth. Some call it the flame of Amenti, the sphere of Amenti, the heavenly gates, St. Peter's gates. And the magic is that every soul that comes into incarnation that's born here on the earth had to pass through the earth, the Earth's core, the huge stargate at the Earth's core, and leave an imprint of their DNA at the Earth's core. Okay? And then they go through one of the Earth stargates that correspond to the interdimensional stargates. There's 2 stargates on this planet that correspond to 11th dimensional Lyra are in England, the Vale of Pusey, where a lot of the crop circles are. Most of them, I feel, is to facilitate stargate travel. And remember, even if a couple of guys go out there, well, I don't believe that the two guys go out there with a plank of wood. That's a lot of crap. But just because a crop circle is man-made, it doesn't mean it was not divinely inspired. But we know basically the truth of the crop circles now. The Vale of Pusey, where a lot of the crop circles are in England, and a little island off of the coast of Ireland called the Isle of Eye. These are two Earth stargates that relate to the interdimensional stargate at the 11th dimension at that moment of conception. This is why we're coded with the 1111. When we see that 1111 on the clock, not at 1110, not at 1113, it instantly gets our attention. So the whole thing about it is, I'm going to just mention a little bit more about Earth history, that at various times in Earth's human evolution, certain families of cloister races, they're furtherly genetically enhanced through hybridization with the seed races out of which the original angelic Tyrannusium human lineage emerged. It's important to know this. The seed race of the human race is called the Orifeme. And the Orifeme human seed race is a composite genetic code of Syrian Azurites from the second density. And Lyran Syrian Anuhazi from Harmonic Universe 3, dimension from Oversouls. Also connected with Lyran Syrian Anuhazi Elohai Emerald Order. If you want to know more, and the Brenau, which Trish talks about as in community. How much time do I have left, Neil?
We have 9 minutes, but there's 2 questions as well. So however you want to do it.
Okay, I just want to get to this really fast. I know I wanted to talk about ascension and forgiveness and gratitude, and I will for the next couple of minutes. I believe it is our evolutionary destiny to ascend. And what is ascension? Ascension is multi-dimensional identity integration. We have all these parts of ourselves and all these higher selves. The thing of the path of divine right order is to ascend, is the process of ascension, is merging, expanding into our higher families, realms of consciousness. And we do that through certain processes, DNA activation process. Boy, I didn't know I was talking for so long, my God. But in the ascension process, which we can talk about at another time, what bars people, or the biggest obstacles to ascend, which is multidimensional identity integration, which is the big question. Why are we here? We're here to ascend. We're here to merge and expand to our higher families of light, to join our angelic families, archangelic, avatar, rishi, and then out of the time matrix altogether into ascended mastery. But the biggest blocks to that is the inability to forgive and to show gratitude. Did you know that gratitude is a magnetic force? Yes, it's showing thanks, but gratitude is a magnetic force that unites your brain and your solar plexus. The solar plexus, Charles Haanel, the master key, the great secret of life is in the coordination of 2 centers, the brain and the solar plex. Gratitude itself is a magnetic force that unites your brain and your solar plexus in the heart space. And that is where the gratitude is felt. Gratitude and reverence and respect for all gifts of the spirit. Real quick, can you see this? Can everybody see this here?
Yes.
This is one of the most beautiful of Emoto's crystals. Let me see if I can get this file.
Click slideshow.
The slide, yeah.
The button that says slideshow there.
I can do it this way. You see that crystal there? That's the crystal when you project thoughts of forgiveness and gratitude. And the reason it has so much light, it holds so much light, is because of its structure. It has structure. Forgiveness and gratitude, they are forms of consciousness. Neil, it's true. And I know that you allude to this too. We choose to forgive. We choose to express gratitude. We bring these things to life. Everything exists in the void. Everything exists in potential creation. But the great gift we have is the gift of thought, that we can think and bring these things from the void into the doorstep of finite third-dimensional creation. And in choosing to express forgiveness or gratitude, We've given them life and we've given them purpose. Every thought we think is either going to contribute to our ascension or deny us that potential.
Yes.
And everything that has life has purpose. Just like a negative thought, folks. You have a negative thought, it's like the genie. It doesn't judge the thought. Every thought is compelled by its nature to embody itself in an objectivity. You're thinking of that Roman vacation you want to take. You're driving on the freeway. Someone cuts you off. You curse them out. Guess what? When something goes wrong with your vacation, realize you put that in. You were thinking, creating that morphogenetic field, adding frequency, consciousness, deeds, thoughts, words. And when something goes wrong, realize that you created that by just cursing someone out on the highway. Everything is about thought. And this is that Emoto crystal. These are just projecting thoughts of forgiveness and gratitude. This is why Jesus talked about that Mary, all the Marys had the effulgence of light, because they were, when you embody forgiveness, when you're the living vibration of forgiveness, every cell and every crystal and microcrystal in your body will be able to hold and radiate that light. That's when you become a source of illumination for everybody. Look at this. This is a snowflake. I don't know who this photographer is, but look what he caught. Look what he caught there. In the center of that snowflake, it's a female form. It's some diva, some elemental, and I think at the center of every crystal is the same kind of divine feminine energy. That males may be the spirit, but it's the woman that shapes it. And look at this. If you don't know what this is, you can guess what it might be. It looks like a stone structure, like a column, like an altar. This also is a snowflake, electron microscope photography. So it showed, and I showed Emoto this in 2006, that not only our thoughts influence the growth, the shape of crystals, but there's also a geometric architecture. There's an architecture to our thoughts. And like the Hertax and JJ and Des, when you think in divine pictures, when you think in divine thoughts, that's the reality you will see. You don't necessarily have to go around the world. You can create these temples of divine spiritual science by meditating on divine thoughts. Thoughts have an architecture to them. And you create like mandalas. When you see the three-dimensional manifestations of mandalas, two-dimensional yantras, they are multidimensional. We create these palaces, these temples of divine spiritual science. And if all of us can do this, if we can clear the karma and miasms, this for 2 more minutes. Yeah, Neil?
Yeah, you're good.
It's an important consideration. Karma, the condition karma, this is what I actually wanted to talk about, manifest as what we call miasms. Miasms, the crystallizations of disharmonic thoughts. Eventually, they will manifest, crystallize in the DNA, and they don't allow the helixes to come together. The helixes stay polarized. The big thing about ascension is the helixes, the male and female electrical and magnetic particle, antiparticle, matter, antimatter helixes are meant to fuse together. The hydrogen bonds that keep the helix in the shape that it's in, those nucleotide base pairs, they're hydrogen bonds, they're red, they're in the red spectrum. So if you want to escape the bondage of Egypt or Pharaoh or the bondage of our three-dimensional limited mortal coils, the hydrogen bonds in the ascension process have to separate. The Red Sea has to part. When the helixes come together, it releases DNA fire codes that allow the strands to come together. When the DNA strands come together, of course, when all the codes are in, 12 from each helix, 24 elders, 24 codes, the helixes themselves, the strands will fuse together, creating this beautiful blue photonic light that courses through the whole body, raising the acceleration rate and releasing seals inside and between the chakras that allow those sets of counter-rotating spirals to manifest the Merkaba spirals. So a lot of it is forgiveness. Forgiveness is all over the place. Forgiveness is not about blame, it's forgiving. What do you have to sacrifice happily so you can be a vessel for the Spirit of God, for God to manifest in this world? Clear the blocks. The process of ascension is natural and organic for all of us. And the biggest blocks to the natural process of ascension, multi-dimensional identity integration, is our inability to truly understand what forgiveness is and to express gratitude. And I tell you, once we do that, we turn to innocence. Jesus in the Pistis Sophia talks about how he found his mother. He scanned the world looking for a soul, a female that lived in a state of innocence. In other words, a woman that was karma free. Because what good would it have done for Jesus to be birthed through parents that had unresolved karma? He would have had to take that on as well. So our return to innocence is learning to control our thoughts. And this is why books like The Master Key, Ferran Dumont's Solar Plexus book, if people are interested, I'll leave my email. I will happily send you links for this amazing book, The Solar Plexus or the Abdominal Brain. The solar plexus is the key. The solar plexus is the way into the subconscious mind and the universal treasury. And I have not seen one of these law of attraction coaches and teachers even talking about the solar plexus, and it is so important. You have to feel it, but to feel it, the solar plexus is the control of the sympathetic nervous system and the physical expression of our emotions. Woo! Boy, time, I tell you, it's true, Neil. When I go on, time it starts to accelerate. There's so much to talk about, but how do we generate karma? We don't think in ways which are respectful of divine right order. And here's the last thing I want to say in that part. There's a parallel Earth. There's a parallel 15-dimensional time matrix. We have our parallels. Miasms, the condition of karma, manifests truly as a buildup. We know about the chakras regulating the frequencies up and down, but there is a horizontal regulatory mechanism also. And the front and back cones of the chakras, they regulate the flow of consciousness between us and our parallels in the parallel universe, in the parallel Earth. Well, the story is our parallel Earth is already under a form of draconian one world order. So you see, the reason it's manifesting here on Earth is because of our karma, because of not thinking in a way that respects the path of divine right order and the law of one, we're allowing a buildup of antiparticle consciousness, the consciousness of parallel Earth in our Earth. That's what karma does. That's the nature of miasms, is really a buildup of antiparticles in the particle base of our planet and our bodies. And since our parallel Earth is already under a form of one world order, that's why you see it manifesting here. We have to learn to heal our thoughts. The Master Key, Charles Haanel, all the original New Thought, Law of Attraction authors. I have a whole bookcase full of all the first editions of these amazing books. Hi, Alan.
Hey, Phil. Let's stop screen sharing and let's just chat and catch up for a second.
Okay. So I just wanted to just brush over some things, that there is knowledge of ourselves, as I said at the very beginning, teaches us where we come, where we are, and whither we are going. We can return from a state of exile. We can rebuild the temple in man, and then the temple of the whole spiritual Israel, quote unquote. And the angel of liberation is within our grasp. We have everything we need.